G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Algared, and our special guest today is Edison. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good, and we get to rip apart or advise or help Edison with his fleet. So fun,
Yeah,
fun, fun.
I think we'll flip straight over to that and we'll let Edison tell us his thoughts. So we've managed to throw Edison's fleet here into Fleet Viewer.
Yep.
And I'll open it on the second screen up here, and we'll start at the Terrapin, and we'll just get right into it. So, why'd you pick up the Terrapin there, Edison?
The Terrapin, just to be a forward scout for stuff like the War Fleet, Lauras, Theodorus, to have more information before you get into the system
Right.
originally.
Alright, I guess there's two gladiators here, so just tell us about the gladiators, and I assume they're pirate skins just because it was rare.
The pirate skin was partly because it was rare and I had store credits lying around. So I was like, could get it now, and the other one is because it's in the back with the address.
Yep. So is what you just why do you have the gladiators though in general? Just is it just another fighter or?
It's just purely because it was in the pack with the address. Like, it's one of the things that's in it, but I don't really care about it.
This one.
The Eclipse, strategical bomber, like stealth operations, was my idea behind it.
I am gonna assume this is for stealth fighting then in that case.
Yeah, definitely, like for escorting ships like the Eclipse, or having a hidden escort.
Say Raven, I assume again because this is kind of rare.
Yeah, and you cannot do anything with it, so you can't CC it or anything.
Santoki.
Yeah, because it was pretty much what Cartual was originally supposed to be.
Yeah.
Except
Apart from having two crewmen, but other than that, it's the original Cartual, isn't it?
Yeah, I think losing those two crewmen really gutted this.
Also, in the other spec.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the time, I did enjoy fire, so I didn't mind.
Now, something else that we should mention here while we're actually on that Super Hornet, you actually are one of the rare few people that actually have the upgrade pack to the military one, don't you?
No, I don't.
No.
I wish I picked it up back then.
I've mixed him up with someone else, haven't I? Actually,
You
I know
did.
who I mixed him up with. I know who. Anyway, you guys will see that in another episode of FMF. I know who I've mixed him up with now. Right, my bad. Yeah, F7C and F7C executive. So you're obviously a big spender.
See, I did think so.
Yeah. So no need to kind of explain those ones. Banner defender. Now I'm assuming this is because it's not letting me click on it.
Because of the supposed working together with another ship later on in my fleet.
Yeah, for the merchantman. Yeah. Freelancer Miss, which is very meta at the moment.
Yeah, I had it actually before most people used it as a meta, and it's pretty much at this moment my daily driver.
That's like that package that's in. That's one with physical goods, isn't it? So that's like a
Yep,
really early pack.
Yeah, you don't see that
it's
one
a
too
really
much
early
anymore.
pack. This used to be normal Vanguard. Upgraded it to the Harbinger
And that
because I thought
was
torpedoes.
yeah, and that was also in the Armada pack as well, wasn't it?
Yep. To move cargo from station to the planets for when we, as an orc, do bigger operations.
So that's the Hull B.
Andromeda.
Yeah, that's also a physical pack. This was actually one of my first packs. And yeah, the only reason I still have it is because it's a physical pack.
Fair enough. Retaliator.
Because people like to see things go boom.
Enough said. Oh, bad camera movement
And to
on
the
my
other
part.
edge,
Yeah.
the Starliner.
Genesis.
Originally, because this was also supposed to have the functionality of the Hercules, and also to transport people, like orc mates and all.
Alright. Starfarer Gemini.
To mine quantum fuel. Oh wait, it lost that.
Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell. That's how I feel about
It's
mine at the moment too.
it's in the Armada pack, so it's still there.
Yeah. So I think people that are watching would probably be able to tell right now that he's already got his eye on a few things that he wants to shuffle around. Hammerhead.
It's a nice pew pew ship at the moment, and I like big combat ships.
Yep. So that's something we'll go over in a minute. But yeah, Carrick.
Well, yeah, it's a good jack of all trades ships at this time. Probably gonna use it for CC.
Polaris.
It's the ship you want to use when an Idris is, well, takes too many people, like,
Yeah.
and for strike missions.
It's what an Idris was originally supposed to be.
Yeah.
A Corvette.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Corvette.
I think it's going to be one of the more popular ships in the game, that's for sure. What the hell did I do there?
Well, and the
You
Javelin.
skip to the Javelin.
I don't know how I did that. Oh,
That's
the camera
okay.
view. The camera view. That's what screwed me over. Excuse me. Better Benjamin.
The first ship I actually ever got. Like,
Wow.
this was the ship that got me into the game.
Was that day one? Like day one sale of the Better
I
Benjamin? Way
did
back when?
day one buy this one, yes.
Yeah, me too. Wow, man, old school.
To be fair, I missed spikes.
Oh my god, the camera is hating me today. What is going on?
Okay, just stick with the Polaris.
This is the 7th Polaris.
Sorry, camera is hating me.
Oh wait, I don't have 7.
Your fleet is too big. It hates me. All right, Idris, I guess. Nope, doesn't want to agree with me. Here we go. There we go. Idris. P, by the way.
Mobile battle base slash ship for combat, pretty much. Forget this. Oh,
The Abomination, aliasly known as the Kraken.
the Kraken, mobile base that can also be used for logistical reasons, like a mining fleet, for example, with smaller ships, stuff like that, and can also be used as a carrier.
What is going
I'm the Carrick again, but we don't want that. We want the.
on? All I'm doing is double clicking, and it's just. I'm just double clicking, and it's going. It's got a mind of its own. And the last one we've got, obviously, is the big ticket Javelin.
Yeah, that's definitely the flagship of the orc, in my opinion.
All right, so I think most viewers is going to know what I'm going to say, so I'm going to let Algared go first. Algared, do you want to trim the fat, so to speak? And
Well, to start off, we know from our conversation, you know that Edison has the Armada pack, which is the key feature of that is the Idris, and then a whole pile of other ships as well.
Actually, we should probably go over what Edison told us he wants to do in game. I forgot about that completely. Sorry. So, Edison, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you actually plan to do in game, and a little bit of your org
I want to
background?
do mostly combat. That depends on either defending the orc or being, well, the tip of the spear, to say. And I like to focus on big combat ships. Sadly, we don't have that many at this time.
Okay. And so your position in your org is one of the combat people, then, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Algared tried to take that into our.
So taking that on board, the very first thing we said, or I said, is get rid of everything under 250. So basically, get rid of your Santoki Eye, get rid of your Saber, get rid of your Eclipse, get rid of your Gladiuses, get rid of your Terrapin, get rid of your Vanguard. Just CCU those up. If those in the pack, which are those in the Armada pack, are the Starfarer G, the Harbinger, the Terrapin, the regular Gladius, Retaliator, and the Hornet and Saber. He can't melt those. They're ones he wants to CC up from. But things like the Other ships such as the Hull B, the Santoki I, the Defender, the Eclipse, and the Pirate Gladius are ones I think melt and use those credits to help you get those ships to a higher point. The Starliner throws me a little because based on what you originally said, it was an ideal choice. But with the Hercules, it become basically a passenger liner, and that doesn't seem to fit with what you're saying. So I'd be looking at CCing that or melting that as an option for helping you CC to other stuff.
Just to put people on show, kind of like literally just before we started recording, he kind of sprung it on us. So yeah, maybe that is another option. Kind of what Algared's kind of talking about is kind of switching that around to be a Hercules, and that would then probably fold better into your fleet than say something like the Starliner. Would you kind of agree with that, Algared? Maybe bringing a Hercules in to the fold.
Yeah, based on what you were wanting to do, that would certainly fit better than I think a Starliner. But if you decide not to go the Hercules, the Starliner is a good point to go to for a larger ship. Certainly for maybe the Odin mythical ship that's coming along.
Yeah.
Or another specifically combat focused ship.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely, there's more larger combat ships on the cards in the future, regardless of rumors and so forth. So basically, my recommendation is basically the whole front row, with some exceptions due to the packages that Edison has, are on the chopping block. And after we work that through with him, and if I bring it up here, we actually had it written down. So the ones that were not in packs and stuff were the ones that he had to keep, and these are ones that we recommended in the front row that he keep and upgrade to other things. So the Harbinger, the Freelancer, the Andromeda, the Terrapin, the Super Hornet, the Saber, and the Gladius were all upgraded to other things. And the ships that we went through with him were a few different things, and these were based on a few different things. So one of the things Algared highlighted really nicely earlier on before the show, I'll let you take that, Algared, because you said that really well. So he's doing a battle, and then after the battle, if you remember what I was talking about,
Yep. So one of the ships that and there's two ships we often recommend, and that's the Crucible and the Reclaimer. We say they synergize really well in terms of industry, but they also dovetail really nicely with a combat fleet in terms of you've just been in a fight, you need to repair your ships, you've got the repair ship there, and you've got the damaged ships or the ships that can't be repaired, you've got the Reclaimer to munch them up and turn those resources back into stuff you can use. So if you're looking for ships to go to that will benefit and all, they are two ships that I think you can never have enough of.
It's a little bit like insider trading, because you've just been in a battle, so you know where the material, the stuff is, so you can literally go pick it up and make some cash off even more after a battle. So I thought that was a really a good combo to recommend. So that removes those two. The other one that came along that we were kind of, it's probably a bit more of a smaller ship, and that's the Redeemer. I think that's a much better combat ship that he seems to not have. Again, that'll synergize with things like the Hercules, if you pick up one of those, another drop ship. Another really obvious one that I've only just really thought of, but I'm always hesitant to recommend this, is the Prowler, just due to its expense. Algared will agree with me that it's, and I think Edison won't even agree with me, that it's really overpriced for what it is. But that is something I think you may want to consider, just being in that combat. Is it something you've considered, Edison, the Prowler, or is it just too expensive?
Ground combat in general is something that I don't really care for myself. But it was the original part of the Starfare that was like, and it is heavily shielded because I believe it had 6 or 7 size 5 or 6 shields at the time. Other metrics I know.
Yeah.
But like that was definitely like part of what makes it that interested for me at that time, because it was like the most shielded ship in the game for its size at the time. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with it,
Yeah.
but it's possible to melt or CCU.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not attached to it.
Yep. Okay. So some of the other ones that we threw at him, as Algared kind of mentioned and alluded to, was the Odin, the Crucible, the Endeavor, which is a real mainstay for us because of its size, but also because he's a very org-based person, and again, combat-based. You want to kind of want those medical ships and the versatility of the Endeavor, as we always go over. The other one that we did dance around with a little bit, just because Edison does have a lot of credits when he melts stuff off, is things like the Nautilus. Now the Nautilus is limited though, so it's a little bit harder for him to obtain. But you had some reservations with the Nautilus. Do you want to share a little bit about your thoughts on the Nautilus, please, Edison?
I think the Lawless is a nice ship for those who want to lie and wait for combat and make a small area they can deny. But in the past, I've played other space games, and minefields either seem to be completely useless in most space games, or you need like 100 mines to even block off a relatively small area.
So I think,
And that's
I think in short,
most of my doubts.
yeah, I think your thoughts kind of echo our own. The main problem with the Nautilus at the moment is not the ship, but it is the mines and the quantity and things like that. Is that the same thing for you, Algared? Not to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. That the mines on the Nautilus just seem too small for what it is. When you look at the
yeah,
size of the ships and the way that it's spewed a field out. But as being a combat focus of an org that's got other areas as well, you actually do want to be in a position where you can actually help provide defense for those guys if they're out with an Orion mining.
yeah.
You want to be able to do things that are going to add to the defense that doesn't necessarily need a pilot to be there.
Yeah.
And so that can be something that can give you the edge. And so that's a good thing. Normally, I'd have said to Endeavours, but being a combat focused person,
Yeah.
the Nautilus does seem a better fit, I think.
I think that's kind of leading on to kind of one of our last points is here. We've kind of left a lot of this open for Edison because Edison really wants to go down that combat path. And as he's kind of stated, there is not a lot of bigger combat ships at the moment. So things that he wants to move into, we're kind of leaving them open now. So for example, he could take a lot of our recommendations on board, and as other ships come out, he can CC you off into those as he desires. So to give you an example, if he did go with two Endeavours and then another big ship comes out, he can upgrade one of the Endeavours into that or something of that nature. So we've tried to leave this as flexible for him as possible.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
One thing to point out is while he's got the Hornet M and the Sabre, he's actually got the CCUs to those to Ares, but they don't really work as being a good choice because they're still only fighters.
Yeah.
But when he's doing CCU chains, that it can actually be something he can use those areas as a jump off point again. But because we're saying, look, melt them, don't use them. It just doesn't make sense to have a small ship when they're so easy to earn in game. And you had that.
Yeah, I'm about to bring it up. So yeah, I found this really cool image on Reddit this week. This one here, and this kind of really, in a nutshell, sums up some of the stuff we've been trying to tell you guys for ages. So this was a guy in game currently right now, and all he owns is the Carrack, and he used the Carrack to get all the ships underneath him. And this is one of those strategies we've been trying to instill into you guys, rather than a bottom-up approach. Now, Algared will tell you about the wonders of an Aurora and how much money you can make. But
the point of that is to say how much time it will take you to do that with the Aurora. Because you can only make 1,800 maximum per run.
So you can make
you can make it bigger.
Yeah, so that's basically... You can still do everything you need to do in an Aurora and work your way up if that's what you want to do. But if you want to do the inverse, it's just that much quicker again. So this is kind of what the whole consolidating ships has been about, is basically, get the big stuff. And so as you can see with Edison, we're not telling Edison that these ships are bad. We're just saying that if he has the bigger things, he can come back and get all these ships again very, very quickly. And so he'll be able to get his, his Eclipse and his Terrapin. And that's the thing we've kind of been trying to instill in people, because people get very defensive about their fighters. Like, I really love this fighter. But that's not what we've been trying to do. We're not crapping on them and saying that they're bad. We're just trying to get you to take this long-term view that those ships are excellent. They're just not very good dollar value, and I intend to get every ship in that lineup that Edison has right here in the front row. I intend to grab every single one of them, but I'm much better to grab something much larger, like any of the ships in the back there, and use those, and especially if they're economic based, so things like the Reclaimer, the Crucible, the Endeavour, and Orion, any of those, maybe even the Starfarer if they end up fixing it, things like that. And using that money to very quickly churn and get some stuff day one. So just have your exit strategies for your fighters to go to something bigger. They're great to play with right now, but you want to, before release, turn off them and then come back to them after release and earn them in game like that. And I just think this image is brilliant. I couldn't have, it's very few words, but once you understand how it works, it's very simple, and I wish I'd done something like this years ago. And I really should have grabbed the gentleman's name to give him credit, but I didn't, so I apologise.
I think he's right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say
Like,
besides that?
we have orc mates. I think the guy's right. Like, we have an orc mate, and he has like 2 ships, and he already bought an Eclipse and a few other ones. And he's a logistical one, and only used for that was, for example, the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most expensive ships of that bottom line that we currently can buy in game is literally the Eclipse, which is 3 million, which is still cheap compared to what like a Caterpillar is.
Yep. And even comparing it to some other ships like the Banu Defenders, I think like 2-4 or something like that. So that's starting to look at some ships like we've been saying it for ages, what their dollar worth is to what you pay for them to what they're worth in game. And I think people, like our whole episode on buyer's remorse was basically based on that. And I'm sure we'll end up doing an update on that in the future, because as more and more ship in-game prices become known. The Carrack, for example, originally the same price as the Reclaimer, and it's now Reclaimer in games like 15 million, and that's like 26 million. But obviously it's increased in value outside of game as well. But you get what I'm trying to say.
And when you look at even when you look at the price value, the value of UEC to dollars was 1,000 UEC to $1. That's what it is on the market. And so if you've got a ship that's $600, $600, then that you're really saying, well, that's 600,000 at least. Yep. And so they've actually got them even more than that. But the small fighters don't seem to be increasing by that level, and that's what makes this whole thing about get rid of the cheaper stuff. That's, I suppose, is what really drives it. It's not saying they're no good. It's just saying you can get
bigger.
More.
That's like what we've been saying for years. The bigger they are, that they're going to be worth more. And again, you look at ships that potentially started out the same. And again, that Reclaimer Carrack example, the Carrack is worth so much more now. And you start to think of things like the Endeavour, like how much is the Endeavour going to grow? And things like, I know we've talked about the Polaris, is it going to increase? Is it going to stay the same? But if it does increase, wow, amazing. I think a lot of people have, we've even recommended in the past that people do that. Now we're starting to wonder if they're going to make it smaller. But you get the point. Like, you just don't know how much they're going to increase in value. But you can definitely, the safer bet is bigger is better.
Yeah, bigger is safer in terms of whether the money value is going to be there. Whereas the small ships, it's not there. I was working it out on my loan account with the Aurora, that I could be upgrading within several days of just doing a couple of runs, half a dozen runs maybe, and I'd be able to upgrade.
But don't forget, even if you yourself don't have a big ship, you could maybe like help someone with a big ship. Like, I know one of my orc mates pays 40% for other people to fly for him in his second Caterpillar. which is still 40% of what that thing makes as profit, is more than you can ever earn with an Aurora.
100%.
Because he makes
Yeah.
like 50 to 80k profit a run, so you get 40% of that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the most like I said, the most I can make on an Aurora with a full load of Laranite is 1,800. That's it. That's profit.
Mm.
And that's the advantage of using a bigger ship.
Mm.
He used a Carrack, and you can put 10 times the cargo on it, which means you're getting 10 times that profit, and that's the big bonus. Yeah,
See, it starts to make you wonder too. Instead of having this fleet of 10 ships, do you just get one really big one and start earning everything else underneath? And this
Yeah.
domino down trickle effect. Mm.
I would say you would need at least one ship to make you the money before the bigger ship actually
Yeah.
becomes viable.
Yeah.
There's
You know what I'm trying to say, though? You can
there'll
have.
be a point where those big ships are just not viable, but there's that sweet spot.
You
in
get
that
what I
middle
mean.
where-
Instead of a fleet
Yep.
of 10 ships, you could have 3 or 4 ships. You get what I'm trying to say. A smaller
Yep.
fleet that's just designed around economy and use that to explode out. I'd be interested to know some people in the comments. Is there anyone that's specifically built around just economics? I know they are prepared to spend like a small fleet and they're going to expand out from that. I'd be interested to see how that works. All right, Edison, is there anything? Do you want to? Has that been helpful today? Have you had some things you're going to be able to take away? So that's good. And let us know how it goes in the future. Obviously, we've left it very open-ended for you because we know that you're waiting for a few ships that you feel that are not there. But hopefully it helps you trim it a little bit. And you've got some really big ships there, obviously. So you're very org-based. Very clearly comes through in your choices.
Without a doubt. Like, I like big ship combat. I know people will say, oh, but you need to count on when you don't have the people for that. And I'm like, but I want to do big ship combat. Like, I was the one guy that was being a raid leader in World of Warcraft at the time, around 3 raids a day, 6 days a week. So I know it takes work to get that working.
And people say I'm crazy.
I used to. That's why I say I used to, Algared. Not anymore.
All right, then. He's been Algared. He's been Edison. Algared, I'll let you sign off for this one, if you wouldn't mind.
All right. So we've been Inforunners, and don't forget to hit that like button, hit the bell to be notified. Join us on Patreon if you really like what we're doing, and also join us on Discord. That's where we have a lot of our chat going, and it is really good. Leave your comments. If you don't like us, be respectful. And we're out of here. Take care. God bless and be well.
See you guys in the next one.